Okay, so I think the recording is on, so now I just need to do Facebook. Live on Facebook. Go to group. Loving Dangerously.
I'll start for a minute as TK's taking care of some of the technical stuff, and I appreciate TK taking our forums this semester and handling those. He's probably going to be better at it technically than I am, but welcome those of you that are streaming via Facebook and those of you that have come to Zoom. And I really appreciate those of you coming to Zoom. And if you didn't know what the Zoom link is, and you would like that in the future, if you reach out to us, we can give those in the futures, because these are really meant to be interactive. And so I think that their experience will be great for those of you that have the chance to interact. I'm Chad Ford. I'm the director of the McKay Center and a peace building professor here at BYU Hawaii. And last year, I can say that now because it was 2020, I wrote a book called Dangerous Love.
Chad, do you want us to go live for it right now?
Oh, are we not live?
No, I just got it at.
Okay,
but I'm ready.
I'll do that intro.
Sorry, I just wanted to preempt
Sorry,
that.
everybody.
Okay.
I see it now. Say live. Okay, welcome everybody to our first Facebook Live and Zoom Live of the semester through the McKay Center. My name is Chad Ford. I'm the director of the McKay Center, professor in the Peace Building program. I'm joined by Amanda, both my wife and adjunct professor here, and a number of our field directors from the McKay Center, and including TK Ford and Julia Ford and Maddie Grames are all with us as well. And we've got a bunch of our peace building students here with us today on Zoom, and hopefully you're following along on Facebook. We're going to do something a little different this semester, and I'm really excited about it. Last semester we brought in a lot of different speakers to talk a lot of different aspects of peace building. All of those you can find on our McKay Center YouTube page. And go back and listen and follow along with any of those. But over the last semester, we have been developing a Dangerous Love workshop. Last year, I wrote the book Dangerous Love, and one of our intentions was that ultimately this would be a workshop that we could give to other people that are struggling, going through conflict, that need some conflict resolution skills or techniques, and maybe needed more help than they were necessarily getting in the book. And we were thinking about this as something for individuals, something for students, something for organizations as well. And we decided there's no better place to pilot this and to give it its first go through after spending a bunch of brains being together and working on this. And want to acknowledge that many of our alumni and our students and people like Bailey Rasmussen and Adrian Chan and TK and David Whippy and just a number of other people, Chamberlain, McCracken, a number of different people that have helped us along the way. We have, I think, a really cool workshop now. And so over our next 10 weeks, we're going to take you through 10 modules of that. And every week there'll be a different facilitator facilitating. Some of us might come back to do them. And each of them will be sort of an aspect of Dangerous Love. And each of them are meant to sort of be an application for ourselves in our lives. So we're going to be asking you to be thinking about a conflict that you've got going on in your life right now, something that you're struggling with. And we're going to spend the next 10 weeks trying to help you work through it. Not just to get out of the box, as we use in Arbinger terms, but to actually sort of achieve true reconciliation. And I'm really hopeful that this workshop will be helpful. We'll also appreciate your feedback along the way. Again, this is a pilot. We don't want to pretend that everything that we've got here is perfect or the best. And so, we'll be soliciting through our students that are going to be filing responses. Feel free to say, that didn't work for me, or that was confusing, or have you thought about doing this differently? Or maybe if you'd done this or that, it would be better. All of that feedback, I think, would be really helpful for us as well. And again, the goal of the workshop is to help each of us be able to improve a relationship, to transform a conflict in our life, to get reconciliation. And I think that that is going to be something that all of us could benefit from. And I know I'm really excited to see it happening. I was scheduled to be the first facilitator for the first workshop today before I got called into a faculty meeting, which happens from time to time, which unfortunately trumps this. And so I have the pleasure of turning this over to the man who actually built most of these slides, who's been building the facilitator guide, who is actually working on our IPB 425 class. They'll be in the spring, which will be our facilitator training for this workshop. TK, who is going to crush it today and get us through the first module for Dangerous Love. And I have the absolute confidence that maybe more than anybody walking on this earth, including sometimes me, knows Dangerous Love inside and out, and is going to be great. And so I really encourage all of you to dig in, pay attention, and enjoy this process. So TK, I'm going to turn the time over to you.
All right, thanks, Chad. Well, welcome everybody to the first one of these forums. Before we dive into the actual workshop portion of this, I just want to say a word about participation. So this workshop was designed to have a lot of participation where we talk, but also some things that you kind of just do on your own, where you think about your own relationships, your own places that you have conflict. But because we're doing this, through Facebook and through kind of this live forum, we've gone down on the amount of participation. You guys don't need to feel any pressure when I ask questions to speak up and say something. I want everyone to be comfortable, feeling like they can come to this live and ask questions, but not feel the same pressure you would need to participate as you would in probably if you were to actually attend one of these workshops in real life. And so feel free to participate. I will ask some questions, but if no one feels comfortable talking, that's totally okay. We will just treat those questions as rhetorical and I will answer them for you guys. I also apologize. I'm in the library right now, and so I need to keep my mask on so you guys can't see my whole face. So if I ever sound muffled or it's ever hard to hear me because of that, feel free just to send me a message through Zoom, and I guess I'll talk louder. Is kind of my only result to that. But with that, let's start. So let me see. Let's pull up our PowerPoint and let's share the screen. So this is, again, the first time we've ever done this. So forgive me if there are ever technical difficulties that I need to figure out of how to make this all work. But can everyone see this slideshow? It should just say, what is Dangerous Love? Okay, great. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. This particular forum today is probably going to be a little bit shorter than they normally be. Normally we'll take up our full hour. This one, though, is kind of an introduction to the whole workshop, what we're going to be talking about. And so it might take a little less time. So first off, to talk about what Dangerous Love is, we need to just do a little bit of terminology and just talk about what is conflict. And we're going to define conflict as our inability to collaboratively solve problems with other people. So think about that definition for a second, our inability to collaboratively solve problems with other people. And then I want you to ask yourself this question: whom are you in conflict with right now? It could be neighbor, could be a boss, a family member, a friend, a spouse, someone in a different political party or organization, a coworker. And I want to give everyone, whether you're watching it live right now or you're watching this recording, to just take a minute and write down some names. You can write them down on your computer or on a piece of paper, but just write down some names of some people you feel like you're in conflict with. Okay, forgive me, we're having the first of my technical problems. My cursor is not appearing on the screen. So I'm just gonna exit out of the screen share real fast, just so I can actually, there's some people who need to be left in the waiting room, but I can't seem to be able to see what's going on here. There we go. Okay. That should be good. Okay, so hopefully you guys had, that was just a brief moment just to think about some people that you're in conflict with. Now with these people, there are two ways, generally speaking, that we can handle this conflict. There's a constructive way and a destructive way. Now, the constructive way might sound a little foreign to us. I feel like, especially for me, this is probably not what I see most of the time in the conflicts that I'm in. So in a constructive conflict, there's understanding. Both sides are able to see the perspective of the other person that they're in conflict with. If there's wrongs that have been committed by one side, there's justice for those, but also mercy. Parties feel an inner strength at being able to stand up for what they need, but also oftentimes for what the other person in that conflict needs. In a constructive conflict, the relationship is put at the forefront, and there is this kind of conflict leads to peace, and even in many ways can actually be participated in. You can have constructive conflict in a peaceful society or in a peaceful relationship. Now, if you're me, or probably for most of us, this isn't what most of our experience with conflict looks like. In fact, it probably looks a little different. It probably looks more like destructive conflict. When we have conflict with someone, there's high levels of contention. We feel a lot of anger or frustration with those that we disagree with or that we're having this conflict with. A lot of the times when we're in these kind of conflicts, we can feel weak or anxious. We may have a strong desire for things to change and for things to be different, but we don't know how to do that. We feel powerless. And a lot of the times these destructive conflicts leave us feeling broken and cold. Now, we all probably would love to be able to transform our destructive conflicts into constructive conflicts, but for most of us, while doing that would be critical to our personal, professional, and societal well-being, most of us probably aren't very good at this. It's probably, why you're taking peace building. I feel like for me, that was a big incentive to start peace building classes, was to learn how to kind of go through this process. And especially if you're just here because you want to learn more about dangerous love, that's probably a good indication that this is something that we can all work on. So the question then is, why are we so bad at moving our destructive conflicts to constructive conflicts? Why do we struggle with it so much? And the answer to that is fear. When we resort to destructive conflicts, when that's where we find ourselves in, it's oftentimes because we're experiencing a fear of conflict itself, but also a fear of the people that we're in conflict with. One way we can think about this is through these brain scans that we have, that we've put up here. So this particular brain scan that you see, this is kind of a digitized version of it. This is from someone experiencing a profound sense of fear. And another thing just about this, you can see all these lines kind of connecting the different areas. These kind of represent the neural pathways that we have, kind of connecting the different parts of our brain. Now alone, none of us are probably neuroscientists, we probably can't read this. So we're going to compare it to another one. And this second one, B, is a brain scan of someone experiencing a profound sense of peace. Now, just looking at these, what are some differences you guys see between them? What strikes you from these?
A is more organized than B.
A is more organized than B, okay. What other differences strike you between these two?
More lines in B than there are in A.
Yeah, that's probably the most clear difference between them, is that there's a lot more of these neural pathways and connections that line B to A. And A kind of has just, it still certainly has some, but it has less. And I don't know who said it. I can't really see everyone here, but someone said it was more organized. And I think that in some ways that's true. What you see is, there's more, I don't know, there's less options, if you will, of kind of the different connections we can make. And if we think about this, this kind of makes sense. when we experience fear, we often bunker down, we close up, and we kind of resort to and kind of are left with only the most ingrained behaviors and ways of thinking that we normally have, and often our most primal instincts, which generally resorts us to self-preservation. That's what happens when we experience fear. And the problem with this is we lose two critical things. We lose our ability to creatively problem solve. We lose our ability to see different options and solutions to our problems. And we also lose empathy. We lose the ability to see things from another person's perspective, and especially in conflict, the perspective of that person that we're in conflict with. And but when we move to the second branch camp, the profound sense of peace, that all changes. Instead of kind of being closed off and bunkered down, we're open. We're able to see creative solutions, and we retain that ability to problem solve in that way. And we're also able to experience that empathy to see things from another person's perspective. So the question here then comes, how do we move from A to B, which is how do we overcome our fear? And this is where dangerous love comes in. So dangerous love is choosing love over fear in the face of conflict. It's choosing we over me. We mentioned this a little bit when we talked about the constructive conflict side, how the relationship is put at the forefront of that conflict. Many people, when they hear the word love, in dangerous love, they think soft. But dangerous love is anything but soft. There is nothing safe in dangerous love. In fact, dangerous love requires more than courage, and by definition, demands fearlessness. And so as we cultivate our ability to love others dangerously, we're able to overcome our fear of both conflict and people and become an influence for peace, whether it be in our relationships, in our communities, or in our countries, wherever it is we're seeking to make a difference. By learning how to love dangerously, we're able to overcome that fear and move to the constructive conflict styles that we talked about. Now, this workshop that you guys are gonna, if you're here as a student, you need to participate in 5 of them, either just watching the recorded version or just coming live to these. If you're just here to be here, you're welcome to come to as many or as few as you like. But throughout this workshop, we're gonna kind of go through a process. And that's why, we encourage you to come to as many as you can, if not all, because we're gonna go through these processes that help us learn how to cultivate dangerous love. So the first thing we're going to do, you can see here, is we're going to learn how to let go of our fear of conflict and then our fear of people in conflict. And that'll cover, I think, in the next 4 or 5 sessions that we're going to meet together. That's going to be pretty expansive. And then after that, we're going to learn about turning first. If you've been in peace building for a while, that term, probably you know what that is. If you don't know what that means, we'll talk about it when we get there. And of course, that flows into step 4, which is inviting others to turn. Again, if you don't know what that means, we'll talk about that when we get there. But this is the process of dangerous love, of learning how to overcome our fear, learning to let go of it, and then actually turn first towards others. And so that's it for today. Like I said, today is going to be pretty short, just an introduction to kind of what we're going to be talking about throughout the rest of these modules. But I also wanted to open it up. Does anyone have any questions about what we just talked about or about these workshops in general? Sounds like a no. Okay, well, if no one has any questions, like I said, that's it for today. There is this little homework thing here, especially if you're planning to come to a lot of these. I would encourage you to do these when we get to the end of each module. There'll be one of these. These aren't required. You're not going to need to turn anything in for this. It's not part of your grade for these assignments. But they do help you, especially if you want to go to these modules and to these forums to kind of go through this process of finding someone you're in conflict with and learning how to better love them dangerously. But if there's no questions, you guys are free to go. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Yoda.
Sorry, can't find the leave button. It's my first time on laptop.